Alright, so here is the Pro Angler 14. I'm going to do this video in the garage because it's actually snowing outside right now. So definitely a lot warmer in here than it is outside. But I'm just going to kind of dive into it here. There is my skid plate that I made for it. That thing right there. I did a video on that a little over a year ago if you want to check it out. A lot of people have thanked me for sharing that video and stuff, so I do appreciate it. I'm actually getting ready to come out with another video on how to make one of those. I'm going to show you some tips and stuff that I didn't show in the first video. I just have to sit down and edit it. But actually I'm going to go back here. I do have the 180 drive for it. My cart, which you might be wondering why I have two different wheels on my cart. Long story short, whenever I went to go buy this kayak, the only cart that they had was the one with the sand tires on it. So I went ahead and bought it, and whenever I got it back home, I took the wheel off, and all you do is you just turn this hub and the wheel comes right off. So once there's actually a groove. Yeah, there you go. There's a groove on the end of that shaft right there, and whenever I saw that groove, I knew that I could make this work. So basically all I did is got a piece of PVC pipe with a washer, and I did do a video on this also. It's on my channel if you want to check it out. You put that on, then you put your wheel on. This might be a little hard to do with one hand. You stick another washer in, and then your quarter pin, and there you go. Now you have a cart with the hard rubber wheels also. So you can have one cart with both types of tires, because if you know about these Hobie kayaks, you can't buy one cart with interchangeable wheels. They kind of make you buy two carts, which these carts aren't cheap. So if you want to save some money, then it's definitely the way to go. So this hasn't popped off or anything. I've been doing this for years now, and you can actually see I drag this thing through mud, sand. Well, if the sand is hard enough, I'll drag it through sand. But yeah, it's worked out great. So back here, this bag that I kind of zip tied to my seat, this actually came off my Revolution 13. I just put some face masks in there, keep the sun off. In the main compartment here, I got some tools to take apart the Mirage drive. I actually bent one of these rods one day and had to pedal back to the truck, so I put some tools in that thing to take this apart to hopefully kind of bend that rod back if that ever happens again, so I won't have to paddle. The fish finder I use is a Lowrance Hook 5. On the side right here, that's actually my paddle holder, which is the original paddle holder. All I did is just unscrewed that thing, and whenever you do that, it's not going to leave a hole so water can get inside your kayak. There will be a hole there, but water can't get inside. And I just basically just zip tied it on the side right here. And I've actually used it a couple times. I'm definitely not going to be able to do this with one hand. There we go. So yeah, I've actually done that, been out a few times like this, and it's worked out awesome. You know, it's on there pretty good. It takes a lot of pressure to pop this thing off, and then the front doesn't dig into the water or anything. So yeah, works out awesome. I actually used to try to fish it in there, which it's kind of tight to do, and then snap it in that way. But with a cooler and, you know, other stuff that I have back there, if I do carry other stuff, it's just kind of a pain. So even up here beside your feet, then they'll fall on your feet and stuff. So I just kind of zip tied it on the side right here, and it's worked out awesome. So this leash right here is actually a pair of stainless steel pliers that I found off of Amazon. That way, you know, the pliers don't end up like my last pair, like at the bottom of a lake. Inside here, I'm not going to go over any tackle or anything, but the kayak came with these Plano boxes, and I took there used to be a clip here and a clip here, but I took those off just so I won't have to unsnap 3 clips just to get my some of my tackle. A lot simpler and easier. Inside the tackle tray, the switch right here is actually for my lights. And I just basically duct tape the wiring to the tackle tray, and it's worked out good so far. If I do get any water inside my hull, I've got a little car washing sponge. And if things get real and I have a leak, then I've got this pump that I can use. Whenever I go saltwater fishing, usually I'll kind of go way out there. So, you know, having that with me is kind of puts my mind at ease, especially when you can't see land. I definitely do not want to end up with shark bait. So that's what stays in there. The Lowrance Hook 5, the mount, is just this flat mount that I took some stainless steel screws, screwed it in. And that's an original Hobie flat mount. I don't remember where I got it from, but that's how it's mounted on there. This tape measure, I actually duct taped a magnet on the back side, and then I duct taped a magnet on the back side of the kayak, and there you go. It stays on there. So whenever I measure fish, if I'm going to keep them, I'll have quick access to a measuring tape. I used to use one of those real long measuring boards, but you know, I try to keep it simple. That thing kept on getting in the way and stuff, so you know, this has worked out awesome. Doesn't get in the way, doesn't fall off, stays right there. The trolling motor is a Prowler 30-pound thrust, I think. Yeah, 30-pound thrust. That's the plug that came with my kayak, and it just clips right down on that hole, and it works out good. Now, this trolling motor is supposed to be a freshwater trolling motor, but I've actually taken this thing out in saltwater maybe a dozen times, and it's never hurt it. It keeps on going. So at least for me, it's worked out awesome in saltwater. But you know, whenever I do get home, I do take a 5-gallon bucket and run the motor to try to get all the saltwater crud out of it. So that said, it does have a little voltage gauge right there. It doesn't rattle around in the forward gears, excuse me, which has, I think it's got 5. Yeah, it doesn't rattle around in forward gears, but whenever you put this thing in reverse, it rattles bad. So I don't really know how to get that rattling out of it. I've tried a few things and none of them have worked, but it rattles really bad in reverse. So luckily I don't use reverse that much, but that's what that is. Inside the tub here, I don't carry all this stuff with me all the time, but it's just kind of the main stuff that I'll use. Got some bug spray and suntan lotion as a must. This huge thing is actually my Coleman bucket grill, which that's my cooking grate I keep in a plastic bag. So whenever me and my friends go out, what I'll usually do is take this with me. That way I can grill up some hamburgers and hot dogs right on the water. And what I'll do is just put it right here on the lid. I got some, I have a non-skid mat. It's kind of like a toolbox liner that I'll put on here so this thing doesn't slide around. And it stays right there. It doesn't get hot. That's the reason why I've got two of these buckets. Because if I were just to use one of these buckets and put it on here, it would definitely warp the top of this. So I had to buy another one to kind of dissipate the heat. So you can actually pick this thing up while food is cooking, and it won't hurt your hands or burn you or nothing. So I've definitely used this a lot. You can see how nasty it is in there, but yeah, it's definitely better than packing a bologna sandwich. And I'll just usually preload it with charcoal before I go. There's the lighter I use for it. Right here is my my little weighing thing, and I just keep that on a zip tie. That way I know where it is. I can just reach forward and grab it. I've got a zip tied duct tape on the back of this. This is my 20-liter Ascend dry bag, and I just got a couple GoPros, so I do plan on making a whole lot more videos. This might be a little hard to do here in the wintertime, but once spring hits, I'm definitely going to start recording all of my main fishing stuff, so definitely stay tuned for that. But that's what I'm going to keep all the GoPro stuff in, so just so they don't get lost. This thing is actually my prop tool for the trolling motor. case I do break a prop, I do have a spare prop, which I'll put on there if I do happen to break one. That's just a hat to keep the sun off. This thing, I don't know if I'll be able to unfold it with one hand, or maybe I will. There we go. So this actually is the net that I'll use in freshwater. It's pretty much good for pretty much all freshwater fish, except if you get a really huge bass or a really big catfish. You know, this probably won't do you any good, but you know, for your average size bass or whatever, it'll do pretty good. So that's what I have. For saltwater, I've got a bigger one. Light is definitely a must. I found myself going back to the truck in the dark a few times. Life jacket, have to have that. So under my tub here, there is my battery tray that I made out of PVC. And what I do is I just take the battery out of my zero-turn lawnmower, and I just use that. I've been doing that for like 4 years now, and I've been using the same battery. It doesn't drain it too bad. It'll power the fish finder all day long, and I do actually have my lights wired to it also. So if it does start to get dark, or if I am fishing in the dark, I can you know, fish for a really long time in the dark. So that's what I use. I got a couple of these pool noodles back here, which I have poked a hole through them. The main reason for that is what I'll do. There was one incident where I was actually fishing. I was going back to the truck. I was going with the current, so I was going pretty fast. And I ran up underneath a underwater tree, and it basically skidded on one side, and it kind of forced me over, and it flipped me over. So I didn't even see it. So you know, ever since then, I've been carrying some pool noodles to tie on underwater debris, just to try to warn some boaters, you know, so nobody gets hurt and wrecks their boat. Because it's one thing whenever you crash into something on a kayak going like 5 miles an hour, but it's a whole nother situation whenever you're going 40 miles an hour and you crash into like an underwater tree or something. So just to try to help some people out so they don't hurt themselves. But that's pretty much it. That's the main stuff that I do have. One other thing that I have that I'm not going to whip out because it's too much of a hassle to deal with. I actually have a trot line rig that I'll take the rod holders out, and the trot line rig will go in right here and on the other side, and then the rest of it sticks out on the side. So whenever I'm running my trot line to try and catch blue crab, that's what I'll use. But whenever spring hits, crabbing season is done with now, but whenever spring hits, I'll definitely do a couple videos on that. So yeah, any questions, feel free to leave in the comments, and I will see you guys on the next one.